This is KSPB Pill Beach at 91.9 FM. I'm DJ Phan, and I'm actually hosting my first ever talk show / podcast kind of thing. I haven't really decided what it is exactly just yet, but it's just, this next hour will be me talking with two wonderful guests that I have here today. They're all Stevenson students, or was Stevenson students. One of them is an alumni. And so I'm joined by Prim, who is currently a senior who recently committed to USC, or the University of Southern California, obviously in SoCal, or more specifically LA. So congratulations to her. And we also have another guest, Catherine, who is currently attending Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. So clearly both very, very successful, talented women here in terms of their high school career, maybe possibly their college acceptance career. Yeah, welcome guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me. First, just want to say, kind of a rough year it's been with COVID and everything. How has COVID impacted you specifically? Maybe, your learning or any of that. Maybe Catherine, you can start. Catherine, so she's a freshman in college. My bad. Forgot to mention that.
So I'm a freshman attending Cornell University, and so my freshman year has started off in the one way that I could never have imagined, which is online. And so actually I took my first semester remote while our campus opened. So I was physically very distanced from all of my peers, and I felt like that limited me to a mental space where I was focusing only on academics and without many opportunities to socialize or network with my peers. That has allowed me to focus a lot more on my learning, but at the same time, it really took away that collaborative aspect that I think is very integral to learning at college, and that's what I experienced as a high schooler as well. So it kind of pushed me off my tracks a little bit, but now in my second semester I'm on campus and I am really enjoying my time working with my peers and actually being able to have fun while learning.
That's actually a really good point you brought up too, because it is your freshman year, it's your first time, and you're going straight into a COVID year, so everything's online. But as for Prim and I, we've been at Stevenson for 3+ years now. This is our 4th year, so we kind of know everybody a little bit better. So I'm assuming for you, Prim, socializing wasn't, it's always been the same. Do you like throughout quarantine, were you still able to kind of talk to your peers?
Well, after COVID started, we all had to go home, as and I was able to socialize with peers, but through the screen instead of in person. And the whole online learning thing was super new to not only me, but I'm sure everybody. And as much as, like Catherine gave time to focus on studies, it also took away a lot of that social, physical, aspect of seeing everybody every day on campus. And it was, there were good and bads, there were highs and lows.
But what about in terms of studying? Would you think you'd do better, learning, there's learning and then there's grades, in my opinion. I kind of separate those two, in terms of knowledge going to your brain and then putting down random stuff on a sheet of paper, or in this case, on a Google Forms or on Canvas.
Yeah, I think, to be completely honest, in terms of my attitude towards academics, I actually tried to take more shortcuts in light of COVID, because I was just so drained from constantly facing my laptop and having to learn these new concepts. One of my classes during my first semester was financial accounting, and you can already tell how dry that sounds, right? But without the help of my peers or just support, actually, I was just trying to get every assignment done, and I don't really think I retained that much information, which I really regret, because it's a really good personal skill to have. So I'm looking forward to the next few semesters when our curriculum will move more into an in-person mode and we can have more collaborative opportunities.
For sure. And Prim or Catherine, if you guys have anything to say, feel free to jump in and just mention it. What about you, Prim? How has COVID affected your learning?
Well, in various ways has it affected my learning. I personally prefer to be, I guess, like learning when like I'm actually sitting in the classroom, because I returned back home and I wasn't able to attend all my classes synchronously because due to like, the time difference. I'm from Thailand, and it was
15-hour difference.
Yeah, definitely. It was difficult, and like, to be completely honest again, there will be times where there will be like a lack of motivation in wanting to go and like watch the video like recordings, but sometimes you just like gotta do it. But it was definitely pretty hard, like the transition from like in-person learning to remote learning. I felt like me being in person and learning and getting to like actually engage with my peers, I think that's the way more effective form of learning, at least for me.
Yeah, I obviously everybody can kind of relate to that. I think especially when you said about, suddenly moving from in-person learning to like immediately remote, or for some people even asynchronous learning in March of 2020, where like I feel like for me already as a remote student, even though everybody's back in class, we'll get back to that later. Prim, I want to ask you some questions with in-person instruction now that we've returned. For remote students, it's kind of a harder environment. Like for remote students, it's already a hard way to like stay focused, because you're in the comforts of your home. You're not in an environment where you're surrounded by other students. You're also learning, but you're kind of learning through a screen, and it sometimes it's really hard. But then I find it a bit even more challenging for students like you who were asynchronous, who are just like, okay, watch a video to learn. So like nobody's paying attention to what you're doing. It's just you're supposed to watch a video. You got to find the motivation to do that. And so I have a lot of respect for students who are able to keep up with everything like asynchronous, because that's a whole challenge in itself, in my opinion. Prim, your senior year, you would say in terms of grades that kind of lead towards like the college process, has COVID kind of affected your grades negatively or not really, or like positively even? Oops, do you have
yeah, well, first semester senior year, although remote learning was hard in many different ways, like I mentioned, like not being able to engage that much with peers due to asynchronous learning, I felt like that drive to like go to like my dream college, or like the college that I want to go to, really like drove me to like work hard during that time, no matter how hard it was. So I managed to keep my grades up, but I feel like if it weren't for that like motivation, I probably would not have done as well as I should have.
Well then, Catherine, for you, who is a freshman in college, you don't have that. I mean, college still, Cornell University, you're still trying to do your best. But you don't have that obligation of, hey, it's college season, you need to get a good grade. So how did you find motivation to get through?
I think whether with COVID or not, there are different factors that are motivating me to keep my GPA high. Of course, it's different from high school. I'm not keeping the same standards. Yeah. And I think it's very necessary to give yourself that leniency. Otherwise, in college, like there are things like grade deflation and grade inflation. So don't hold yourself to the same standards. That's just some advice that I want to share with you guys as, someone one step ahead. But in terms of my personal motivators include, I want to impress my professors. Like I want to have a good connection with them. And I actually find that, going back to the previous question, that it helps me learn a little bit better when I actually do put in the effort. You put in is what you get out. So
yeah.
That is something that I really value. So it's something that I'm also working hard to put in the effort. Wait, what? That sounds so weird.
No.
Anyways.
Okay. No. When I kind of picked up on, so you kind of talk about professors and all that.
Yes.
So how is that kind of for like professors at your university? Because I feel like most of the time from the students that actually go to college right now, and what I've been hearing, like from a junior in college currently, she just says, they don't even take attendance. They don't really care that you show up to class or not, as long as you get all the exams in. And so Like it seems more like a chill environment, right?
Well, because I go to a university that has different colleges which focus in different fields of study. My particular college, I attend the hotel school, so you can tell that we emphasize a lot on the social interaction between us as peers and us also with like the mentorship kind of relationship that we have with our professors. And so I actually have to attend every single class. And let me tell you, I have 8 a.m.s from Monday to Thursday. So it's high school all over again. And I am literally dying.
What time do you end? 8 a.m.s till?
Well, usually I end around like 1:30-ish.
Okay,
so
that's nice.
It's all right. It's a lot shorter of a day and I have fewer classes.
8 a.m. is kind of sooner than us
right.
even. We start at like 10. It's kind of early.
Oh my goodness, I'm so jealous of you. But anyways, I think that my peers from other colleges have very different experiences. And I have met professors who have both cared a lot about my progress in their class, as well as others who are more aloof. So it really depends on which professor you meet and the effort that you put in to connect with them.
You're kind of telling me it depends on kind of your major. So
Yeah.
obviously hotel school, Cornell, very renowned. But Prim, USC, how excited are you? USC Arts, I believe last time I checked 7th in the nation. Extremely competitive or something crazy.
Correct. On a scale of 1 to 10, I am at 100 right now. So in other words, extremely excited, but also very nervous. Because, college is a whole new experience. It's going to bring us out of like the bubble that we've been living in.
So USC is a rather, well, compared to Berkeley, for example, it's a much smaller school, right? What is it? Do you know the number? Around 5,000 students?
Honestly, that's a very good question. I do not know the exact number or even the estimate, but I do know that it's first, when you say California, people think of the UCs. And if I were to compare USC to the UCs, it's probably a lot smaller than the UCs.
UC, at least Berkeley, we have 30,000 students. For Stevenson, we're used to 100 students per class, which kind of adds up to 550 students on like an acre of land, which is kind of a lot for such little students. Catherine, actually, do you know how many students goes to Cornell? I would not assume a lot either, right?
I am estimating we're actually quite a big school.
Just throw out a number.
Approximately 14,000.
14,000.
I'm not exactly sure. Don't take my word. A Google search would tell you, but
yeah, and you're on campus, right?
Yes, I'm currently on campus.
Do you feel like you're kind of crowded? And to compare it to like Stevenson, kind of, would you say, there's more people around or there's less people, and how does that make you feel?
Yeah. Statistically, there are obviously way more people than there were at Stevenson. So every day I do cross paths with people who I've never seen before, and that's totally normal. But at the same time, I still feel like as freshmen all live on North Campus in the dorms, I continue to be in the same circle of people, which is both good and bad. It gives me a sense of like stability and a group of friends that remind me of the atmosphere from high school, but at the same time it's so easy to step out of it, and everyone does too. Personally, I really enjoy that opportunity to have people who you can be really close to at the same time meeting new people.
In your short time that you've been at Cornell, I've assumed you've already gathered up a bunch of friends even from that. So they kind of gather all the freshmen together?
Yeah. Since housing is mandatory for on-campus housing is mandatory for all freshmen. They've located all freshman dorms on North Campus, and so next year, most people will spread out in Southwest in College Town, which is off campus. So
for sure,
yeah,
but
this is the only opportunity that we have to be around people of the same age.
Yeah, and then by that time you'd already made friends, maybe even roommates by then, right?
Yeah.
So roommate process. Do you have any advice for Prim and I?
Well, I've been going to boarding school since I was like 12. So
Really? You have.
Yeah, I went to a girls' school in England before I came to Stevenson, and so the roommate process has been something that has been going on in my life for like 5 years. And when I first went to England, I remember that I had 4 roommates. So it was like a room of like 4 or 5 people.
Wow.
So that was quite a lot in one room. And coming here to Stevenson, like obviously like I had a roommate sophomore year, and then like when I junior year when I became a prefect, I had a single. So I only had the roommate experience at Stevenson once, but I've been exposed to like the concept of it for a while. So I mean, I'm not that nervous about rooming with someone at college, but at the same time, because I'm more worried about finding one, if you get what I mean. I don't know. I feel I'm quite shy, like, to begin with. So
quite shy? No way.
To begin with, Ethan.
No
begin
way.
with.
I disagree.
To begin with.
Okay.
To begin with. But obviously, like, for those who know me, and obviously you guys, you know that I'm not shy around you. No, it's just like if there's like an overwhelmingly like a lot of people and I just don't know any of them, and that's like the case with, you know, college right now, because like obviously like I haven't had the chance to meet like a lot of people yet. But yeah, I think my main concern is just actually finding one. So yeah,
true. Just finding the right person, but like rooming is
you definitely
a different
want a
story.
right person. Yeah, and the thing is, you know how like you know, there's not going to be like lights out at our college or whatever, and like there's going to be people from all across like majors, and like I think my main concern is, as an art major, I know that art students just don't sleep, like, and I'm probably not going to be sleeping in college. I'm going to be getting like 3 hours of sleep a day. Yeah,
I have friends who also pull all-nighters, but let me tell you, that doesn't last long and you'll crash one day. So Prim, I hope I will check in on you and make sure that you're not pulling your all-nighters, okay?
Yeah, I feel like 2020 has seen enough of my all-nighters. So yeah.
I kind of want to redirect this a little bit so that, you know, our listeners can also
redirect.
Listen, no. My next question is kind of, you know, want to talk about how each one of us got to where we are in terms of college. So obviously, Catherine made it to Cornell, Prim made it to USC. So how did, you know, what's the most difficult part of the college process? How did you get to where you are today, kind of like, and kind of maybe some advice you'd give out to juniors who will be going through the same college process we went through, and maybe even underclassmen as well, freshmen, like just starting off their high school career. Either one of you can start.
Yeah, Catherine, I think you should start that off as a very experienced person in the field.
That's true.
I applied when there was a time with no COVID. So I feel like back then, as if I'm some old rag, but
listen, 2019, you listen to the, like, 2019 was so long ago.
Stop, I'm not even that
literally
like just the sound of it.
That was
2020 also sounds
ago.
Long ago.
Let me just
the sound
let
of
me
it.
continue, you babies.
Sorry.
Anyways,
you're not that much older than us, Catherine, but okay.
Aren't you younger than one of us, right?
No, she's older than me.
How old are you, Ethan?
I don't know about you.
I'm 18. But
what month
December.
Again? Oh, I'm older than you. Come on.
When is your birthday? August?
November.
Said, come on.
Oh, November. Sorry, a month older. My bad. I'm sorry.
Okay. Is this gonna get edited out?
No, this is staying in. I don't know what you're talking about.
Now everyone knows my age. Okay, but the most difficult part
were we
of
not
the
supposed to share your age?
process.
Sorry,
Shut up.
Sorry. Keep going. Sorry.
Okay.
The college process.
So the most difficult part was, I think, all of the parts combined, because I remember how there were so many things that I had to kind of have my mind on, including SAT, which was my personal nemesis. And the
I hated
essays,
that.
the pure quantity of essays that we had to write was just mind-blowing. I don't know how we were able to balance that with our schoolwork, but we did, and we prevailed. And now we're in college. So I think some tips that I have is to really, while writing your essay, is to really write about things that you care about. Don't write things that you think the college admissions officer would want to hear about, because just imagine how many essays they read about kids who presume, like, you know, that they would want to hear about the highlights of their life, when that's actually not the case. And making yourself more human in front of them is the way to go. And another thing is to kind of keep in check your mental state. I think during this time, like, anxiety is very high for everyone, and it's really easy to get into a toxic mindset that tears apart your relationships with your peers. That didn't happen to me personally, but I think it's something that everyone is very like vulnerable to during this time, and you don't want to spend the rest of your high school, like last semester, with
no friends.
no friends. Like, that's really sad, so please don't do that. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
I mean, the last part of your senior year is hanging out with friends. But Prim, what about you? What are your thoughts on the college process?
I agree with Catherine a lot. I think that a lot of people write what college admission officers like want to hear instead of being personal about it. Like, honestly, like, college essays, it is just like they want to see you for you, you know, not like you, like who you're trying to be. So I just, like, I know this sounds very cliche, but honestly, just be yourself, and put yourself out there. Like, if it makes any of you listening to this, I don't know who's listening to this, but
a lot of people will be. I'll send it to your parents.
Oh God. But if it makes like anyone feel better, I literally wrote about the Disney movie Mulan and like got it.
Really?
So,
no way. Yeah. We're learning about Mulan in English class right now. But
no, exactly. It's really ironic.
Okay.
So I mean, like, show about anything you like.
I gotta ask you. Listen, I'm just gonna say I'm a junior in high school. I'm in 11th grade. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing with myself. When you say be yourself, it's very vague in my opinion. Like, what does that kind of mean? No, don't be sorry. I'm just saying, like, you know, when someone came, at least when I was working with my college counselors, they kind of said, like, you know, what are you passionate about? Like, how can one kind of show themselves? Because when you say be yourself, sometimes you're kind of like, oh, okay, this is who I am, and you kind of think this is who you are, but like it might not be. I have a friend who kind of wrote about the purple pink, because he just really loves the color pink, and that was him being himself. The color, sorry, the color pink, and that, and when I read it, that I could see him. But how do you reach that level? How do you say, you know, what's you?
Yeah, kind of. That's actually
it's a really hard question. I agree.
Yeah,
like I'm just trying to think about it myself. No, Catherine, please jump in if you know anything too, or if you have an idea, because I'm kind of.
Cornell, Berkeley, you guys are giving me very like big brain energy. Like, my brain capacity is not like big enough to.
We're going to, what is it? USC,
process.
Cornell, Berkeley. We're going to the. Aren't we all like top 25 schools? Top 10?
Yeah.
I know like USC is top 10. Cornell is probably top 10 as well. I know Berkeley, last time I checked, I was top 22. So you guys are kind of on a different league.
Or something. But that doesn't matter.
Exactly. Like, okay. We're just, you know.
We're all going to accomplished schools. Let's just say that.
Yeah, where we're supposed to
be. And I am proud
be.
of all of us.
I know. I'm very proud of all of us. So
I think to
question.
answer like how to find yourself, like, I'm not gonna, like, it's exactly what it sounds like. You're actually embarking on a psychological journey where you're trying to enlighten yourself about areas about yourself that you like never knew about. And so I think what's really helpful is to consider those questions like, yeah, what do you want to do in the future? What are you passionate about? But also just think about the experiences that made you to who you are today. And by who you are comprised of all of the experiences that you endured and you learned from. So personally, I could share about my like what I wrote about. I basically wrote about joining cross country during my junior year, which is quite a late time.
I'm sorry, what, you did cross country?
Right? I did cross country.
The shock.
No. I was in cross country. I never saw you.
No, I was there. Excuse me. I was just running with a slow group. But
No.
let me continue.
Sorry.
Yeah, so you can see, like, yeah, as a junior, like, it's so out of the blue for someone to join a sport junior year. But I decided to do that because I wanted to get out of my comfort zone.
Yes.
Note, comfort zone is also a very big theme for writing essays, so take advantage of that. Yeah, and so I basically wrote about how I failed many times while running in races. I came in last like so many times, but I wasn't embarrassed about it because I knew that I was putting in the effort into running, something that I've never done before, and I was enjoying it. And so I talked a lot about like what I actually learned about myself, how I value more about the experience of getting to the result rather than having a good result without, enduring some kind of significant challenge.
Gotcha.
And I think, so you're able to explain a lot about yourself, even if you can't point your finger on it, like in this moment. But as you write, you'll get to know yourself better. You'll probably have many drafts as well, many times where you change your topic. So during that process, you'll get to know yourself better. And I think it's why I actually ended up enjoying the whole college application process. I really dreaded it at first, but I came out
know by yourself.
Yeah, I was so like confident by then. I was like, this is who I am.
Yeah, I going back to what you said about, so kind of, have inspirational like stories that doesn't necessarily be, I won, the Nobel Peace Prize or whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of like more like what you did. And in my opinion, college jobs kind of there's a story, you want to write a story that kind of represents yourself. Like when they read it, for example, you read, let's just use off of Catherine's story. You read one where she's talking about, I haven't actually read it, this is just from what I'm hearing, her perseverance from even being last, she went through the entire cross country season. She's determined, she's willing to go out of her comfort zone to try these new things. So just like off of that, you already see 3 like amazing qualities that a lot of people would want to have. So from what I'm kind of hearing too is like the college, the essay is a very, very important part about or in terms of the college process, because everybody can have a 4.0, everybody can have a 1600 on the SAT, a 36 on the ACT, but what makes you different from these other students, right? Exactly. Catherine she doesn't like running, but she ran. Unless you did like running, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the point. Prim, I didn't like running, but I still did it. So that tells something about my character. Yeah.
Exactly.
What about Prim?
Prim's into Mulan. But yes, what about Prim?
That was one of like my specific, where I wrote about Mulan, that was one of my like specific supplemental like for like a certain school. But I do know that the cross country one for Catherine was her Common App because I actually read it last year. For my Common App, I wrote, just to share, I wrote about more like trusting myself, which again is a very big theme in the college admissions process, but also like whatever you write, there's always going to be someone else who's going to write it too. So I wrote about how I used to be bullied a lot when I was in middle school, and before that too, and how I was very self-conscious, very insecure about like my body image, etc. And I talked about how I discovered dance, and I really liked to dance. I still like it, but yeah. And dancing pretty much requires you to be in front of like a mirrored room all day. And that was like me constantly like confronting what I feared the most and how I overcame that. So that was pretty much like the gist of what I wrote about. Again, you all probably have so many drafts. To make anyone feel better, again, whoever's listening to this,
stop saying that.
I had 17 drafts for my Common App.
Oh my god.
I had not to brag or anything, but I had 26 drafts. So I had 5 different subjects before I landed on one, and then I had an extra 17 drafts. So I went through like multiple subjects before. Again, if it makes you feel better, I spent a month and a half on my Common App essay, and then like the one before my thing. And then I decided, actually, I don't like this topic. And then I changed the whole thing again. So in total, I probably had like around 20 plus drafts too. Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe as a little side note, what Prim said there, if you don't like your college app, or your personal essay, not a lot of other people are going to like it. You probably should like your own. If you write it and you think it's good, then that's good. If you don't think it's good, keep improving it or change subjects like I did 5 times.
Because I definitely know that like when I read an essay and for like my own essay and when I'm not satisfied with it, I just know that the result's not going to be good. For sure. And like, I mean, it's, again, to be completely honest, I applied to quite a lot of schools, and the application process is a very demanding process, and you just gotta keep writing those essays, getting those essays done, and like getting them in. And I fully admit that there are some essays that I was not satisfied with, and I just had to submit because of the deadline. And I mean, it reflected, I got some rejections, and the ones that I did well, I got accepted. So I would say, I know it's a hard process, but just push through it. It's going to be worth it in the end. I promise. So
Prim, when did you start your college kind of journey or preparing for your college applications?
You mean like ever since like SAT? Or
no, sorry, for essays, kind of like when did you start writing your first essay for college?
Honestly, I don't even remember.
And Catherine, you too, because I started mine kind of late, and I regret it. Really
early.
Really? I started.
Oh my god, my Siri keeps like popping up. I do not know why, but I think I started mine in April,
oh wow,
2019. But like I was carefully going at the beginning, but then the stuff caught up with me eventually.
So that just kind of goes into the next point. Is it's never too early, I would say, to be prepared.
Never.
I started so late. I started after, so I went through my entire summer doing SATs, and I got a decent score. It wasn't the score that I wanted, but it's one that I got. And then I only started writing essays in August, and so that leaves me with August, October, November, 3 months kind of to submit. UC's was December? Or was it November? I don't quite remember.
It was December.
So that kind of leaves me 3 to 4 months to just write. Definitely not enough time to write. I believe it was 4 essays. You kind of want to have to be able to sleep on it too. So it's never too early. You can definitely start junior year, whatever you're doing already. Story wise, it's not too. I keep saying it's not too early.
Yeah,
it is not too early.
Yeah, I think it's good to start early, but I also started in August.
Really?
And I think, actually, I started in July, but all of my drafts from July I just discarded at the end because I just felt like there was no substance to it. And that is true that like you start to think about it more. You start to think about it in a more mature way once you enter your senior year. You see things differently than you do during the summer. So I think it's good to start early, but at the same time, don't stop working, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So, and then I also want to ask you guys about your extracurricular activities. That's also, I believe, you'd probably agree, is an important aspect to the college admission process.
Yeah, for sure. I also think that it depends on your major, but speaking from a business major's perspective, that is just crucial to your application.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah.
Also,
and
a business wannabe, definitely.
A lot of schools, they also take your involvement in on-campus clubs and activities as part of your application to show that this is the type of person who you are, because this is the type of things that you choose to engage in. So I think it's really important to also align your activities with what you want to study. That came really naturally for me, but it's also something to consider if you are a current high school student.
Okay. And Prim, you were gone for a little second, but the question was, extracurricular activities, thoughts on that. And like Catherine kind of said, the schools look at your clubs and all of that. What do you think about extracurricular? Did you have any extracurricular activities that you could share? Maybe you don't want to share.
Oh,
I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, no, of course.
I really liked your extracurricular activity, or one of them.
Thank you. Which one was it? I'm curious.
The whole charity process that you did in Thailand.
Oh, that one.
I was following.
I know you both of you were following my Instagram. What was I saying? Oh yeah. Well, for extracurriculars, it is definitely important. But again, I think every aspect of the college application is important. We just know that they will consider everything when they look at your application. But I mean, extracurriculars, they do hold an importance in I'm just repeating myself, but yeah. And well, one of my extracurriculars, the one that Ethan likes so much, is...
I thought it was great. Listen.
Thank you.
Doing these during COVID, so good.
Yeah. It was I returned back to Bangkok, Thailand, and I got together with a couple of friends who also had to return back home because of COVID-19, and we kind of just started this organization where we help underprivileged children from rural schools in Thailand, rural areas, schools in rural areas in Thailand. We just went there and taught them about the importance of mental health and physical health during during every time, but especially during these times, COVID. So yeah, that's one of the extracurriculars I did.
I mean, I still keep saying it. I thought it was really cool that she's, you're going out there and helping other people.
Thank you.
Kind of doing what I like to say is kind of, doing your part, in a way, doing your part when frontliners are obviously out there risking their lives to kind of protect us. You're trying to help out in any way you can, even though, we're definitely not prepared or trained to be a medical professional. So I always think that if you did something during COVID, while others are staying at home and you're trying out there you're out there to help people, it's always a great thing.
Thank you.
I had a really good point that I wanted to bring up, but
How about you, Ethan? It's our time to ask you some questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
how was your experience?
Yeah, share about us your college process and any advice you would give.
My college process. In terms of the college process, per the Berkeley, at least the UC system, when submitting, so with the UC system, you submit 4 essays you pick I think it was 4 questions out of either 6 or 8 questions, and you write about those 4. And so some of the questions I kind of picked was some of the questions they actually have is, what's your favorite academic subject, or a bit more detailed about what they want in terms of your essay. But I kind of wrote 3 essays that I'm kind of proud of, and then one that I'm not extremely proud of now that I look back at it. At that point, for some reason, I was really proud of it. Looking back, I just sounded very, very like arrogant or something. I don't know. I just didn't quite like it. And in terms of extracurricular activities, I had a bit of like I had my foot in a bit of everything. I did kind of more towards leadership activities, like being what was it called? I forgot. Stage managing, in student council, all that jazz. The day of, I want to ask you guys, the day of when you got your admissions, your decisions, and you knew you got into the school that you're committed to now, or you're going to. What was it like? I know for Prim, we called after you got yours, and you seemed pretty excited.
Yeah.
Catherine, how was yours? Or Prim, both of you, any of you?
Catherine,
Prim, you want to expand?
Oh, sure. The relief that comes after sending the last application is indescribable. Yeah, it's indescribable. It is so, like, it's such a good feeling. And then, like, you, like, kind of dwell on it for a few days. At least that's what I did. I was like, I'm done with this process, And then after, like, a week or so, it goes, like, I have decisions coming out in, like, a couple weeks. It was, when the decisions came, at one point, it was a little bit overwhelming. There can be times where, like, it's really, like, up and down. It's like one day you get rejected to, like, I don't know, both schools on that day. One day you get into all 3 schools you apply to. Like, that, well, at least that was the case for me. And honestly, like, I remember when I got my first rejection ever, I cried. I cried because I was keeping a streak, and I was like, I haven't gotten a single rejection yet for, like, a while. And then when I got my first rejection, it was kind of a bummer. But after the second and third time, it didn't feel as bad. Mm-hmm. It's just like, not used to it, but it's just kind of like, like you kind of understand that, like, love the schools that love you. Exactly. Love the schools that love you. And
that's
a really good point.
Yeah. I mean, like, if they don't want you, then don't spend more time thinking about it. Like, and the schools that accept you, they really want you. And, like, I guess, like, don't focus on the things that you don't have, but focus on the things that's in front of you. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah.
And again, kind of like, well, actually, Catherine, about your experience first, then I'll go on.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
So, yeah, I had the privilege of being on campus and opening it while my friends were there. But basically, I was at lacrosse practice, and just for background information, I was admitted early decision. So that and another school's decisions were the only ones that I received. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that exciting, but it really meant a lot to me, like, that one decision. Like, I didn't have to go through a slew of acceptances, rejections, waitlists, but, like, that one acceptance meant so much to me, and I was really happy. I started calling my mom. I called my mom during practice too, and I started crying, and she thought I didn't get in, but then I was like, no, I got in. I got in. But yeah, it was memorable and quite funny to think back on.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to say, like Prim said, some schools accept you, schools that love you accepted you, love the schools that love you. Kind of wanted to say, during this whole thing as well, especially with COVID, so many more people are submitting applications because they don't have to submit an SAT or an ACT score. Also, this whole college, process is just going back to, like, my thing with, like, having an outside of school counselor. I don't know if either of you had any, but, like, it's kind of a flawed process in my opinion, where some students who really deserve it might have accidentally did some, like, not gone in, or it's just a very randomized process in my opinion. Like, you're not very much guaranteed to go anywhere. one moment, like I said, I got waitlisted from one of my safeties, but then I got accepted one of my reaches. Like it's almost like a lottery. It's gambling at this point.
For sure. Like, I think you can never get into the minds of the admissions officers, and honestly it also depends on like who happens to open your file that day, right? They get to decide whether or not you move on to the next round. And I think it's easy to like associate your worth as a student, as like a person, with your acceptances or rejections. And so I know it's hard to get out of that mindset. I don't know how you guys deal with it. Do you guys have tips or advice?
Prim, you wanna go?
You can go, Ethan.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. It is a whole, just in general, just a scary process. I don't know.
Yeah, I think one thing though is to refrain comparing yourself to others. And as you said, Ethan, like you had the privilege of having an outside counselor. I did as well, and not everyone has access to those resources.
Or if you want to disclose, I don't know if you want. And she's gone.
What?
Yeah. A lot of people I've been saying or been hearing, like college counselors at our school, they have so many students that they have to keep up with, and not always they're not always going to be able to help you. So no, go ahead.
I actually wanted to mention this when you first mentioned about outside counselors and like counselors within Stevenson. I personally had like a really great experience with my counselor at Stevenson as well as outside. First, I wanted to say like it is like what you put in, like you have to be proactive in order to get something very valuable out of it. And I shared like so much with my counselor, and I came to trust him a lot. So that's my 2 cents. And second is that I think it's so helpful to even reach out to your alumni friends who have gone through the process. For sure,
like that is so important.
And personally, I would be so open to like reviewing someone's essay or their application, and I'm sure that there are people who you can find as well.
Exactly. Maybe even like go and read accepted students' essays so that you get to know kind of what
I guess, but it's so easy to copy, right? I tried to stay away. Like that was my issue. But if it works for you, definitely.
For me, it was kind of more like take inspiration, kind of like the direction. Obviously, everybody's going to have their own story. But hour is kind of up. I wanted to ask some final questions before we wrap everything up.
Sure.
Just a quick advice. Like, this entire thing is kind of an advice to everybody already. But one final piece of advice you would give to juniors or even just high school students that will be coming after us, and by us I mean Prim and I and Catherine, by coming after us like a bit later, you know what I mean?
Other than being genuine in your application, like I think that's a theme that was echoed throughout our session today. Other than that, I think you should reach out to the resources that you have, and even try to go for some resources that you think are out of your hand. That's a skill that I learned and I'm starting to learn in college, and it's never too early to start doing that, and you will find the benefits that other people can offer you and you can offer to other people. Yeah, so if you need help, like always tell someone, whether it's with your application itself or even to talk about like your headspace during that time. I think both are really important.
Yeah. What about you, Prim?
That's hard. I don't know. Well, if like Catherine said, like if you need help, like don't hesitate to reach out to those around you, and like just know that like sometimes when you're writing essays, it can get overwhelming. I know it can get very exhausting, but you can do it. And like just think of what is at the end of the road, and persevere. So yeah.
yeah, at the end of the day, you're going to where you're meant to be. Not
Yes,
like
that is very true.
you're gonna be fine wherever you go. It's very much like Catherine said, basically echoed throughout this entire kind of conversation, is that it's really what you make of it. You know, how willing you are to go out, seek out help, how long you're willing to spend on your essays. You know, I bet like if I go to Berkeley, or let's say if I went to USC or some other school, let's just say one is better than the other and I went to the worst one, I can very much have the same experience as the better one if I just put my mind to it. And because college kind of put out these like opportunities for you out there, it's just for you to seize them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that you
Yes, Prim?
Well, I just wanted to say, like, now that Ethan said it, like, I just also wanted to add, this is something that I say very often to my friends. I don't know if I've ever said it to you two, but I always say that, like, you know, it's not what you do. It's not where you go to college. It's what you choose to do there.
For sure.
So that is a very important thing. Yes.
So true.
And also a thing that I got inspiration from Catherine was, you know, rejection is redirection, and you know, everything will play out just fine in the end. Like, trust the process.
Wow, you still remember.
I do. It was my go-to motto, like, during my college process.
Just read.
It is
so good. That's very true. I like it.
Ethan, look, you ended up at Berkeley, which is your
I know,
dream school.
Catherine, you should have told me that. USC. Catherine, you should have told me that.
I ended up at USC, which
I know.
was my dream
I'm
school.
sorry. No,
But yeah, we were all
actually-
talking about this. Sorry, keep going, Catherine.
No. It was like literally from a photo, like a quote on a photo that I posted, and she still remembers. So props to Prim, being that motivational speaker.
I was just talking like we talked about this junior year too. You went back from. I'm mumbling now. You came back from the college SoCal college tour. You're like, what is it? Fight on, and you're like USC. That's it, right?
I've been crazy. Okay, for your information, all you lovely listeners, I have been crazy about this school for 2.5 years.
Forever.
It is not a joke. It has been forever. And, you know, to be honest, I initially ED'd somewhere else just because, you know, I was just thinking about something that I don't know. I just ED'd somewhere else instead. And that didn't work out. But look where it ended up, back in my dream school. So whatever it is, it will work out. That's just what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for your time. And yeah, any final? No, probably not. No more final thoughts.
No. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, not viewers. Bye, listeners.
Think about it.